Greetings and felicitations again, my fellow perceptive purple people. I wanted to take a few moments to talk about some thoughts regarding the recent Colorado judge's decision to keep former President Trump on the Colorado ballot. Quick refresher, if you're not up to date on this, I'll make this part quick with a quote from the recent Washington Post article by Patrick Mulcahy, which I'll link to below. Although Judge Sarah B. Wallace found that Trump engaged in insurrection, she determined Section 3 does not apply to him. Section 3 refers to some offices and refers to those who are in officer of the United States, but does not specifically mention the presidency. Wallace determined the drafters of the Section 3 of the 14th Amendment did not intend to include the president as an officer of the United States. As you may expect, I have problems with the decision presented by Judge Wallace. Now, believe it or not, I actually agree that Trump should remain on the ballot at this time, but for a totally different reason. I don't agree with how this judge came to her decision, and I now question her judicial acumen and logical processing abilities in general. We'll start with where we kind of agree, though for different reasoning than the judge presented. I agree with Judge Wallace that Trump should remain on the ballot for now, but this is based upon determination issues rather than the interpretation issues that the judge got so wrong. You see, Trump is yet to be convicted by either Congress or a criminal court of competent jurisdiction of insurrection. Though the January 6th committee made a determination that Trump engaged in the insurrection attempt, such was never decided by the full House or Senate, making it a well-considered opinion of the committee, but not on a par with, say, one of his impeachments. Also, though Trump et al. Is facing at least 2 current criminal trials regarding just such charges, he is, like any other citizen, innocent until proven guilty of these crimes. If, and only if, one of these 2 trials comes to a criminal conviction, then the argument can legitimately be made that Section 3 of the 14th Amendment is truly applicable and not unreasonably misapplied. Why accept the court's adjudications in these other 2 cases over the Colorado court's determination? I'll make it simple. The burden of proof requirements is vastly different between these 2 types of courts. The Colorado case was a civil case. The burden of proof for such a case is only a preponderance of the evidence, or, basically, over half certain of guilt. The 2 cases in federal and state courts are criminal cases. The burden of proof is much higher, being beyond a reasonable doubt. When dealing with removing a citizen's right to hold office, nothing less should be required for the denial of this political right, like any constitutional right. Okay, then, you say, Congress is certainly not even required to have a preponderance of the evidence to be able to just vote a person out of this right, so how is that okay? I can understand your thoughts on that. I would point out, though, that this is a political right, and therefore, where the judicial branch does not make such a determination, it would also be squarely in the purview of the elected representatives and senators of Congress. And, more importantly, that Congress is the only body with the direct power to remove this disability per that 14th Amendment. Let's begin the beatdown of Judge Sarah Wallace's opinion with a quick reading of Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, just in case you aren't already sick of reading or hearing it. No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president, or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States, or as a member of any state legislature, or as an executive or judicial officer of any state, to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability. Next, we'll paraphrase with the very well-established public opinion being said in just about every other video and news channel that obviously Judge Wallace is confused by the words "no person" and instead tries to claim that a president is not an officer of the United States, so the 14th Amendment doesn't apply to presidents. She does not make any mention about vice presidents. This illogically derived opinion leads to at least 2 people that would be above the law from her position: the president and the vice president. a concept that would be anathema to our founding fathers, who took great pains to make sure that everybody was subject to the Constitution with absolutely zero exceptions, ever. But y'all don't come here for the usual opinions, do you? Well, I'm not going to disappoint you. Perhaps George Wallace, like so many others, has been paying so much attention to the specifics of each word in the 14th Amendment that she forgot to look at the main body of the Constitution itself. Specifically, just the very first paragraph of Section 1 in Article 2. You know, right in your face up front. This won't take long at all. Article 2, Section 1. The executive power shall be vested in a President of the United States of America. He shall hold his office during the term of 4 years, and, together with the Vice President, chosen for the same term, be elected as follows. Did you catch it? Allow me to point it out. He shall hold his office. Holding the office of the President of the United States makes the President an officer of the United States, by simple definition. How the apparently myopic Judge Wallace failed in this obviously constitutional fact is quite beyond me. So there you have it, folks. First, yes, Trump should remain on the ballot for now. Second, our concurrence, though, is based on a different position of logic, in that this allowance is subject to change if and or until he is found guilty of those crimes against we the people by criminal convictions. Only by such a conviction, with the appeals process completed, should any candidate be removed from the people's ability to vote for such a candidate. This format should satisfy constitutional scrutiny for application of this major political handicapping of a citizen. Third, in 2 parts. With all of this said, however, Judge Wallace's judgment is faulty in part due to 2 specific failures in definition. There's her failure in definition to consider the, well, rather obvious facts that show that Trump shall be held subject to Section 3 of the 14th Amendment like anybody else, as his position, as defined in Article 2, Section 1 of the main body of the Constitution, makes clear that the President, like the Vice President, are both officers of the United States, because they each hold offices of the United States. Then there is her failure in definition to be able to explain in her ruling precisely just how one would preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution without supporting the Constitution. I personally am very curious to discover just what mental gymnastics this judge used to come to this little bit of pretzel logic. Fourth, and finally, there is this judge's clear failure in logic in explaining just how her decision that the President, and by default extension the Vice President, are both held unaccountable by the Constitution, and try to explain how it doesn't fly directly in the face of the very basic principles of the United States Constitution and the plainly stated intentions of our founding fathers for this country, that no one, but no one, is allowed to be above the law. So, what do you think? Did Judge Wallace get it right and we've got it wrong here? As always, be prepared for a strong but polite debate. I'll see you in the comments section below. Till our next chat, remember to keep your balance and stay purple, people. We'll see you again real soon.